Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We're going to be talking about some potential Armada news on the horizon. Adepticon just happened. There was this blatant omission of any X-Wing or Armada discussion at the Adepticon studio update. Had a lot of people wondering, were there going to be any Armada updates? Was there going to be any news? There were reports that a new marketing person over at AMG had said at Gamma, which was a previous convention, a trade show, that there would be some news. So again, I haven't gotten that quote directly, but there was whispers that there was going to be some news. Definitely seemed like there was going to be at least another rapid reinforcements and possibly a rules update. We know we've got some X-Wing reprints still in the pipe, and we know that Armada has gotten some reprints that recently that seemed to indicate another rapid reinforcements. Playtesters have been talking about being optimistic, so it definitely seemed like there was news for these two games, but nothing came out of Adepticon. Or did it? There are definitely some ways to read between the lines a little bit and take everything that we do know and put it into a video today. So we're going to talk about the potential for Armada for this year and what we learned from Adepticon and the absence of information and what's all there. If you guys are new here to the channel, we are still doing another $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. There's two big talking points that I want to address that deal with Armada. One deals with both X-Wing and Armada, and this first one is basically at the studio update panel. If you were watching the Professional Casual Network stream, which is, I guess, they like the dedicated streamer, you may have been left with some confusion because there was a point where somebody went to ask a question. They were told, we are not taking questions. And he tried to be very polite and said, with all due respect, just one very, very quick question before everybody leaves. And then you could hear there was, like, I think Will Schick said to Simone, "Well, you're the boss. You want to take it or not?" And so she goes, "What's your question?" And then immediately, basically the stream got muted, got cut off, which I thought was super strange. But not really that strange. It's very corporate. It's a very corporate move, right? Like okay, we'll take a question, but nobody can know what your question is. But there were people in the room, and the reports that are coming out is that he asked about X-Wing and Armada. What was the status of those games since they were omitted from? AMG has 5 games right now under their I guess tablecloth, so to speak, and those 2 were left out. And reportedly, what is being said is that there would be no X-Wing or Armada updates at this panel, but obviously, and I'm quoting the report, so it's not really a real quote, it's like a quote of a quote, that updates and announcements would be coming soon. So, if, of course, that is actually true, again, I wasn't there. Everything I can get from Adepticon is going to be secondhand at best. But if that's true, which it definitely seems to be true because we do have reason to believe that these things would be coming anyway, then that's pretty exciting. We do have another big thing in July, which is going to be Mini Stravaganza. So hopefully we don't have to wait all the way until July, but if not, then hopefully Mini Stravaganza will definitely have time dedicated to these games, although I would probably guess that it may end up just being one single 20-30 minute panel for both games combined out of all of Mini Stravaganza. But even that would be great. What I expect, though, is that we'll see small updates in the coming months once things are getting settled, possibly even later today or next week. There'll probably be some minor updates that will, kind of get tweeted about or referenced once and left alone. It does kind of feel like X-Wing and Armada are both on life support. But with Armada specifically, I want to kind of direct your attention to the Armada streams and Ion Radio they were streaming. And I'll put a link down in the video description below to the particular stream I'm going to reference. But basically, Will Schick did get on the stream and was talking a little bit about Armada. There were some good questions asked, and I'll say this: it's difficult. It's difficult to do an interview with Asmodee folks, and a big part of that is because of the licensed games. I've had to do it. I've done it plenty of times, and I know that there's things that we want to ask that we can't ask. If you do just ask the questions that you really want to ask, then that'll be the last time you ever get an interview. And on top of that, they won't be answered anyway. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it to just be like, dude, WTF, what is going on? Why do you guys treat Armada like crap? You can't actually say that. Not to their face. I can say it to you because I'm not interviewing anybody. But those are the questions that, of course, we want to ask. But if you were to ask something like that, the interview would be over and you'd never get another one, and nothing would be gained. It would just be, that's a great way to go out if you were like, hey, I'm shutting down my channel, so here's my final question ever, and give them a big middle finger with like a rude question like that. It doesn't work that way. So the questions, you have to be very careful about how you're wording the questions, and you have to give them questions that they can answer. Plus, in my experience, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but a lot of times questions, especially when you're dealing with a licensed product, questions have to be pre-approved. Now, I know people hate to hear that because it takes away some of the validity of an interview. I've had to do it before. Now, that doesn't mean that everything is 100% scripted, but it means that this is what, when you're asking questions, you want to ask questions that are answerable. It does me no good to be like, hey, when's the next expansion coming out? And then it's like, we can't talk about future products. It's like, oh, okay, well, what, are you guys going to do another Squadron pack? We can't talk about future products. That's not a good interview because no good information comes out of it. So you want to ask questions that can be answered. You want to ask questions that can be answered well. You want to ask questions that the person you're interviewing can elaborate on, and that you can get them talking. And through that process, sometimes you glimpse extra information, and that's kind of one of the things that happens. So I think Ion Radio did a good job. I'll put a link down in the video description below. And I say all that because I'm afraid some people might think, well, you threw some softball questions at them. And I'm like, well, they weren't actually. I know these well enough to know that they weren't exactly softball questions, but they were questions that could manage to get through a pre-approval process and be answerable while also allowing just enough window space, just enough space for Will Schick to kind of dance around revealing future information. So, there are definitely, and I'm not going to cover all the questions because you can go and check it out yourself, but the general flow, it did kind of start out more generalized. I'm talking about Armada. Will Schick, in his initial responses were very prepackaged. A lot of the same type of responses that you typically get. A lot of very, I'll even say generic responses that could apply to any game. Like, well, we really want the game to be balanced, and there's definitely a fine line to walk between, wanting to do something cool, but also not wanting to do too much, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, that can apply to just about anything. Although it definitely doesn't apply to Marvel Crisis Protocol and Shatterpoint, which they have no worries at all about doing too much. But at a certain point in the interview, the right questions were asked about how they look at stuff, and there was definitely a point where Will Schick acknowledged, and this is a big deal, he acknowledged that the Clone Wars factions need more ships. Like, they are light on ships when compared to the other factions. And I thought that was a really important moment for two big reasons. For one, it does shine a light on the fact that he is aware of the game. And what I mean by that is there's almost a certain belief or stereotype that, like, the AMG people kind of forgot Armada existed. So it means he's paying attention to the game. His eyes are on, like, able to kind of see and have at least at least one finger on the pulse of the game and seeing where things are at. But it also means that he had done his homework enough to be able to talk at length. And the fact that they're acknowledging ships, and this is the second part, they're acknowledging ships specifically, is kind of exciting. Now, that could go a couple of different ways. It might mean that we get new ships at some point. It might mean that we get the Clone Wars factions a little bit more rebalanced, and acknowledging the big offset where the Rebels and Empire have had like 10 waves of content, and the Clone Wars had 2. So yeah, there's definitely a big imbalance there. But I think it also speaks towards rapid reinforcements. where we go with this is, okay, the Architons were reprinted. A lot of people expect Architons to show up in the next Rapid Reinforcements as an optional, a way to take this Imperial ship and run it for the Republic. It seems like it's a no-brainer. It seems like it's the most obvious thing, certainly at the top of a lot of people, including my expectations for Rapid Reinforcements 3. Of course, that doesn't mean that it absolutely will happen. It just seems what we kind of expect the most. But what I think is so telling is the fact he said the Clone Wars factions. So it wasn't just Republic. He also pointed out the Separatists. And if they are also have the same need of at least a new ship, then that's pretty telling, because maybe it means that they have some kind of plan for the Republic, and the Separatists, for both Clone Wars factions. What could the Separatists get? I've talked about that in certain other videos, and I think as it gets closer, if we don't get anything soon, I'll make another predictions video for another Rapid Reinforcements 3, kind of based on some of the newer trends. But one of the things, in short, I think that we could get in another Rapid Reinforcements 3 is, since the Separatists have very specific ships, instead of pulling yet another ship from a different faction into the Separatists, we could get an alternate ship card for existing ships, like a very different way to run a Recusant or a Maleficent or something like that. There might be something like that. If it's different enough, it could be really cool. They may take a slightly out of the box approach and do something even different. But I do expect that we will see some extra weight towards the Clone Wars. And hopefully before July. So it definitely seems like there's definitely the possibility of some things coming for Armada. And I know that while this is exciting to me, to some of you it may not be that exciting, because the news is coming. Is that really even news, right? Is that really satisfying? It's like, hey, I've got an update. There will be an update. Like, well, that's not much of an update if it's just, the chance of a chance for something to happen. Now, if they do go ahead and make actual physical ships, I don't expect them to be pre-painted. I had been told by a lot of people that AMG was never going to make pre-painted ships. If they ever did anything on these, it was going to be ships on a sprue. That's one of the reasons why I always say, what if they did ships on a sprue? And I take all these polls. I'm trying to get you guys used to it, because I honestly... and I completely believe that there's no way AMG will make pre-painted, pre-assembled ships. I think if we're ever going to get a new physical ship from Atomic Mass Games, it's going to be on a sprue. And I think maybe they just have to wait for the people to, wait long enough to where the backlash from that isn't so severe. And I've been at the point for a while now where I'm ready for it, but not everybody's there. And I think that's a whole nother discussion to have, that we can probably do at some point. But there's reasons for why I kind of advocate for that so much, and it's because I have good reason to believe that's the only possible way we'll get new ships. And so, I was beaten into submission earlier than most, I suppose. But that's okay. That's we all have our different preferences. I also happen to enjoy painting ships, so I wouldn't have much of a problem with that to begin with. But that's more of a subject for another day. Let me know some of your thoughts on the lack of X-Wing and Armada news at Adepticon, and some of the hopes of what we'll see in future announcements. Because hopefully it's more than just organized play and Rapid Reinforcements 3. Maybe there's even talk of a card pack or new physical ships. I'd love to hear something like that. Let me know what you want to see down in the comments section. That's going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are awesome and out of this world, and just help make this whole channel possible. So thank you so much for your continued support. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. And always wash your socks.